Greetings, everybody. Cryptodamus back here for another YouTube video from my world headquarters in Seattle, Washington. Thanks for joining us today. It's been a while since I've done a video. I was traveling in Australia for about a month and now I'm back. So let's get caught up on what's going on. As many of you might know, the outer planet Uranus just recently went into the sign of Gemini on July 7th, and this was a historic shift. So Uranus, the outer planet cycle of Uranus is about 84 years. So it hasn't been in the sign of Gemini since 1941. That was an interesting year, obviously, with World War II raging and Pearl Harbor. Although Pearl Harbor actually took place, Uranus had retrograded back into Taurus, but still, nevertheless, since 1941, and the time before that was the 1860s, which of course was the American Civil War, which also correlated to Neptune and Aries that we talked about at great length in some of my earlier videos. On the ingress of Uranus into Gemini, this was an interesting ingress. Uranus is a planet of like the sudden lightning strike event, the dramatic, sudden, unexpected event that completely changes the landscape. Earthquakes, lightning strikes, this kind of nature, sudden flashes of psychic ability and insight. It's been in the sign of Taurus for the last 7 years, the sign of money and banking. We saw the rise of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies from around $3,000 when Uranus went into Taurus in the spring of 2019, and now Bitcoin is trading at about $118,000. So that's been a dramatic, something like, well, man, I don't know, 3 or 4,000% gain, 5,000% gain during the time that Uranus has been in Taurus, the sign of money. Now it's moving into Gemini, the sign of the mind, the sign of technology. And we're going to talk about, yeah, what sectors is Gemini? This we could see a big breakthroughs in quantum computing technology, AI technology, autonomous driving. Gemini is the sign that rules cars and transportation. Autonomous driving is a sector that we really want to keep an eye on. There's going to be a lot of investment opportunities that I'm going to talk about there. Let me just share my screen here. So Uranus going into Gemini, this is what we're talking about. Um, some of the things that I talked about. Now, Uranus is going to be trining Pluto and Aquarius for an extended period over the next couple of months. This is just the first trine between Uranus and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius. There's going to be 5 or 6 over the next 3 years. And again, this is going to be probably explosive for quantum computing tech breakthroughs, for the use of AI. AI right now is kind of where the internet was in the early 2000s. We knew it was going to change the world, but we didn't know how. This is very similar. And Saturn was also in Aries at that point too, in the late 90s with the rise of the internet. And Saturn also just went into Aries, so we're seeing some more themes and similarities there. Um, Now, what's interesting is that Taurus is the slowest sign in the zodiac. It's also the sign of stability and the status quo. With the pandemic and other events, Uranus really disrupted the status quo of like human life on Earth. Now it's moving into the fastest sign in the zodiac, Gemini, but also the most fickle. So we're going to see, I think, just the speed of change is going to come lightning fast. The mantra for Uranus and Gemini is that things are going to be changing so fast. If you can't keep up, you're going to get left behind. Enormous technological breakthroughs are going to make our heads spin during this time. So it's going to be interesting. Uranus is going to be in Gemini until about early November. It is going to retrograde back into Taurus for a few months, and then it's going to go back into Gemini for good later in 2026. We're not going to talk about that now. We're just going to talk about the current Uranus and Gemini period here. Now, already we've seen some big things happen with Uranus and Gemini. Whoops. We've seen Nvidia stock market value uh, hit $4 trillion, and it's the most valuable company in on basically in the world right now on the AI dominance. So AI is really blowing up really big, and Nvidia is just hitting a new all-time high, the most important AI stock in the world. And this is worth more than the entire cryptocurrency market combined, including Bitcoin, even at Bitcoin's all-time high. As some of you might know, we also had a quantum computing tech breakthrough last week uh, with the company Rigetti Computing. One of my top quantum stocks, RGTI, unveiled a quantum technology breakthrough, and the stock actually jumped 30%. Uh, we saw some other big things, as you know. Trump just recently signed, or Congress just recently passed the Genius Act, also known as the stablecoin law. And this is going to open a floodgates of liquidity into the crypto markets and the crypto industry in the United States. So these are some really big changes. Uranus in Gemini was really good for crypto. Bitcoin made a new all-time high. And it also shifted the dynamic from Bitcoin into the altcoin market, which people have been waiting for all year. Ethereum just broke out, had the biggest breakout against Bitcoin, outperforming Bitcoin the most in since 2021. So 4 years. So a big shift in the market sector dynamics in the cryptocurrency market. We also saw today a really interesting partnership between Uber, the self-drive, obviously the taxi sort of company, and Lucid for a robo-taxi deal to sort of compete against Elon Musk's Tesla robo-taxis. So autonomous vehicles and robo-taxis are going to be pretty big. Also, we saw some big breakouts in the flying car sector, which was another sector that I've been saying was going to be big. Now, Mercury is retrograde. Mercury went retrograde last week. And so things are a little, things are a little more tricky now. The markets have stalled out a little bit. The stock market and crypto is kind of consolidating sideways in a bullish consolidation. But let's talk about some of the other things that are going on. First of all, as I said, this is the chart for the new moon that's coming up on Thursday, July 24th. This is a very powerful day in Tibetan Buddhism, by the way. It's one of the most sacred holidays in Tibetan Buddhism. It's called Chotrul Duchen, and your karma is said to be magnified by an exponential amount that day. So it's a good day for charity and philanthropy and doing good deeds and thinking positive thoughts. So Uranus in Gemini is trining Pluto in Aquarius, as we said. The new moon is going to trigger off this really interesting alignment. So one of the things that's happening, right now is the minor grand trine between the outer planets here, between Uranus, Pluto, and Saturn and Neptune is building, and it's gonna actually last all the way into September. And especially Saturn sextile Uranus is one of the most historically bullish alignments for financial markets, for risk on financial markets. And already with Bitcoin and the S&P 500 at all-time highs, this looks like it's going to continue into August and September. We might not get that usual summer sell-off that we have seen before. I thought we would get one actually on the combination of Mercury retrograde and Mars on the South Node. But so far, all we've gotten are small pullbacks and a sideways consolidation. I mean, there are, this new moon opposing Pluto. It's interesting, right? Because it's this new moon is actually it's going to be trying the Saturn Neptune conjunction, and that seems quite favorable. It's going to be sextile Uranus, but it is going to be in a partile, same degree opposition to Pluto. This is really mixed. I think some assets could really rally on the trine to Saturn Neptune. There might be some breakthroughs in the trade war, but the opposition to Pluto could be some assets or sectors could pull back and see some big breakdowns in their support structure, their technical support structure. So look for some really interesting volatility in the markets on this one. I can't tell you which is which. I mean, in the sign of Leo, we might see a pullback in gold here. It's really hard to say. I mean, usually, Leo is risk on, and it is ruled by the sun with dignity in Leo. So this is a generally kind of favorable new moon. But that aspect to the opposition to Pluto will bring some kind of difficult circumstances, some kind of breakdown, destruction, death, setting up the stage for a rebirth and regeneration later. Um, so those are the kind of things, those are some of the things that I wanted to talk about. Um, Now, Uranus and Gemini also, this is basically the last major ingress of outer planet ingress of 2025. We had Pluto's ingress, Aquarius ingress in November of 2024, followed by uh, Neptune's Aries ingress in March of 2025, and then Saturn's Aries ingress, I think it was in May of 2025. So Uranus now in Gemini has finally completed this extraordinary series of outer planet ingresses in 2025, and these are the only initial ingresses. Okay, the true ingress is going to be in 2026 when they go back into their signs for good. They're all of those planets, Uranus, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, they're all going to retrograde back into their old signs and take care of unfinished business. And then they're all going to make that true final ingress into the new signs next year. Next year is going to be even more dramatic, bring even more dramatic changes and transformations and energy shifts and global economic shifts than this year. Um, so Mercury is, like we said, Mercury is retrograde until August 11th. Um, so, take it easy, get more rest, don't push, don't force things, don't push things, you don't have to cycle into that Mercury retrograde headwind. You can relax. It's the summer. Relax, take some time off, go to the beach, go hiking in the mountains, and work on finishing unfinished business, work on doing important research and laying the groundwork so that you can launch those big products or projects or products after August 11th when Mercury goes direct and that minor grand trine starts to uh, come into effect then. So, as usual, Mercury retrograde, don't sign any long-term binding contracts. Don't buy anything or anyone that you can't return for exactly the same price you bought it at. Yeah, just take it easy and step back. Obviously, like there could be, travel delays and tech glitches that goes without saying. Sometimes there'll be interpersonal communication breakdowns. It's a good time to clear the air, actually. It can be frustrating and it can lead to breakdowns, but it is actually a good time to sort of resolve unfinished issues that might be simmering within relationships. Um, so there is one other aspect I'm going to mention because I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk it a lot. I'm going to talk about it a lot more. I'm not going to talk about it so much today, but I am going to just bring it up because Mars is going into Libra and it's going to form one of the most interesting alignments of 2025 when it gets in there. Uh, and that's really like really in the first couple of, the first 10 days or so of the month here. So Mars is going to go into that one Libra position. It's going to make a pretty challenging opposition to Saturn and Neptune. Now that initially just kind of looks really bad. However, when you kind of break it down a little bit more, you see that it's actually making a grand trine with Pluto and Uranus. And we call this configuration actually a kite. So you got the grand trine here. And that one I think is going to be very good for tech and for AI and for quantum and for crypto. But the opposition to Saturn and Neptune, I think, is going to be very bad. I think the August 1st deadline for Trump's tariffs is going to be very bad, and we're going to see an acceleration of the trade war. And so it's going to be really complex and nuanced and mixed. Again, some financial sectors and businesses and stocks that are exposed to the tariff situation and the trade war could have a lot of problems. But I think the tech sector is actually and crypto could actually do very well. This is called the kite. As you can see, it has this kind of kite-like pattern, and it's a very dynamic. I mean, it's three trines, three favorable trines, two favorable sextiles, and only one unfavorable opposition. But the opposition is kind of a doozy here. So this is coming up between really in that first 10 days of August, and we're going to talk more about that in a future video. So I hope that that was all really interesting and good information for you guys. And thanks a lot. Please like and subscribe to my Cryptodamus channel, and wish you a wonderful summer. I'm going to try to stay on top of this YouTube and put out a few more videos in the coming weeks. Maybe we'll have some special guests join us. I'm working on that, and we'll be back soon. Thanks a lot, everyone.